like going to LegalZoom or trustandwill.com. I understand the appeal
Yes.
because it's super, super, super affordable.
Yes.
But those is a disaster.
Why? What makes them so bad?
Because you're dealing with a software
Mhm.
system and not an actual attorney.
Yes.
And it's very limited on what it can do for you. And so unless you are like super simple of like, I want to give everything to my brother and that's it.
Mhm.
That's great. Do that.
Mhm.
But most of the time, 95% of the time, like when I'm working with people, that's not what they want to
Yeah.
do. They want to leave things to different people in a different form or fashion. And those sites don't allow you to do it.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Kickback with Keri podcast. I'm your host, Keri Henderson. And if you have been enjoying these episodes, please make sure that you like, subscribe, comment. I want to hear your thoughts, what you're thinking. If you guys have been wondering about estate planning, you have questions about a trust versus a will, today's episode is for you. I'm here with Meredith Hill. She is the founder and the principal lawyer at the Hill Law Group. And let me get into her credentials. Okay, she is named the 2024 Top Lawyer by Washington Magazine, 40 Under 40 Leading Women by Daily Record, Top 40 Under 40 National Black Lawyer. And she has been featured in CNBC, Washingtonian, Great Day Washington, and more. Hey, Meredith.
Hi, Keri.
I told her I had to make sure I ran down the credentials just so everyone knows that someone here today is going to give us everything we need to know about estate planning, wills, and trusts. And I love that. And I looked online and you started the Hill Law Group how many years now?
It'll be 7 years in September. Yeah.
What inspired you to start your own law firm?
Well, I always wanted to start my own practice, like even before I went to law school. That was the goal. But I just never felt like I was ready.
Yeah.
And because no one teaches you how to start a business, or you also have imposter syndrome of like, oh no, I can't do it. Why would someone pay me to give them legal advice? And so I had worked for the government since coming out of law school. And I was working for the federal government at the time. And I was working in the office of the pardon attorney for the Department of Justice. And we were really busy because it was the end of the Obama administration and it was a wonderful time. And then there was a change of administration and it was a not so wonderful time. And so I was really hating my job at that time and got really not depressed, but just stressed. That's the word, stress. And I would feel myself going to work and like sitting on the metro and just feeling like I was physically going to get ill. I was grinding my teeth so much that like my filling like popped out.
Are you serious?
Yes. So serious.
Wow.
And so I was like, this is obviously the physical manifestation of my stress. And like, this is not okay. And so I was like, you know what? I just need to take a leap of faith and just go for it and just go after what I actually want. And so I quit my cushy government job and took my leap of faith. And it's almost been 7 years. And
congratulations.
Here I am. Yeah, thank you.
So I can't imagine that physical reaction to a job. But when you decide, okay, I'm going to take this leap of faith and I'm going to go for it, like what were some of the challenges, you jumping from this cushy government job to now owning your own law firm? What was that transition like for you? Like, what did that look like in the first couple months after you left?
It was really scary. Yeah. Because you had to figure out like, okay, what am I going to practice? Where am I going to get clients? How am I going to afford things? Where am I going to get money? And so I had done a lot of research for years about how to start your own practice because, again, that's what I wanted to do. And so someone had told me that you should have like 6 months of savings to live off of before you start. And so I had that in my bank account. So that was good to rely on. But you still like to go from a biweekly paycheck that's looking nice to now you're having to pull out of your savings and that's dwindling. It's very fearful. So that was like a big challenge. And also, like, as I mentioned before, the imposter syndrome of not thinking that I'm qualified enough or good enough. And also playing the comparison game of like
Mm-hmm.
looking at other lawyers and what they're doing in their law firm and thinking like I have to be on par with them or doing what they're doing and just like feeling really down on myself because again you just start like you have
Exactly.
like
Yeah.
I'm lucky to have a client.
Right. You're like, I got one. Yes.
Yes, I got one.
Yes.
And so I was just like feeling really like having the negative self-talk
Yeah.
of like, Meredith, you quit this good job and you only have one client and they're not even really paying you that much and all of that stuff that goes with it. And so I
Yeah.
feel like the hardest part was that negative self-talk that you have in the beginning. Well,
Yeah.
throughout, honestly. But it was more so prevalent in the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what made you decide estate planning? Because I know, you'll have some lawyer. I guess most lawyers, I would assume, that have their own practice. They usually, they're focused
Mhm.
on certain specific areas of law. So why was estate planning so important for you to focus on?
So my background is in criminal. And so
Mm-hmm.
when I started my practice, I was doing criminal and I was
Okay.
doing family law. So like divorces, child custody.
Yeah.
And I really hated all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, I didn't take this leap of faith to be miserable. Like I
Yeah.
could have stayed at my government job and been miserable. Um, so I started volunteering with the Maryland State Bar Association, and they had a clinic for senior citizens in Baltimore City to help them with their estate plans. And so I went up to Baltimore, and that was my first like foray into estate planning and what
Mm-hmm.
it looked like and what it entailed. And I fell in love with it because it just made sense
Yeah.
because all that I knew of is that when people die, people fight. And
Oh, yeah. Because if they have a will, they may contest the will. Or if they
yeah,
don't have one, it gets really, really tricky.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And just people just fight over property,
Mm-hmm.
fight over money. Um, and like grandma said that they were going to leave
Yep.
me this. No, she said she was going to leave
Yep.
me that. And so it just made sense that you could write it down in black and white and try to prevent all of that from
Yes.
happening. So I really just started to delve into it and add it into my practice and slowly transition into that's what all we do
Mm-hmm.
is estate planning and administration.
So how have, because I'm sure there's someone watching or listening that is an aspiring, I want to own my own law firm. How did you go about getting those type of clients? Because, if you had an experience, you had previous experience in criminal and family, and then you switched up estate planning. So what did getting clients in this new arena look like for you?
It's really funny. So I had the idea that I wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And then like someone emailed me and they had found me online. I don't know how they found me online. And because none of my online
Yeah.
presence was estate planning. And they're like, me and my wife want to get our wills done. Are you able to assist us?
So that was confirmation.
Yes, it
Okay,
was
that was
confirmation.
confirmation.
It was confirmation. And I was like, sure, I'll
Yeah.
help you. And they were like my first client.
Uh-huh.
And then I did this course with the American Bar Association. It was like estate planning for not beginners, but for attorneys that
Yeah.
want to like start practicing it. So it was this week-long course down in Columbia, South Carolina. And I did that, and that really helped me learn a lot and helped me meet other attorneys who were
Mhm.
doing the same thing. And a lot of them had more experience than I did. And so that provided me with some type of like mentorship.
Yeah.
So when I did have my one client, so I, so when I got this one estate planning
Yes.
client they were my client while I was at the course.
Yeah.
I was able to like bounce ideas off of people, and they were like really straightforward clients. But at the time, I was like, "Oh my gosh, what do I do?"
Exactly. Paying your mentor like, so they asked this question.
Yes.
What's the right answer?
Yeah, and so I relied on my team or not,
Yeah.
and I didn't have a team
Yeah.
at the time, but like you have to create your own
Mhm.
team and really not be afraid to ask questions, because if you have that question, guaranteed like
Somebody else.
someone else has that question. Many people have that question. So that was my first way of like getting estate planning clients. And then just putting stuff on social media and just having that constant presence of this is what I do, this is what I offer. I also started doing speaking to different organizations about estate planning, especially during the pandemic. The pandemic was awful, but it was also like such a blessing to my business because it enabled me to put some plans in place and like really focus on what I wanted to do and reach out to organizations and do Zoom webinars and seminars for people. And that really opened the door to get some estate planning clients in.
Yeah, because during that time, everyone was like, oh, we got to get our lives together.
Yes.
Like, we got to.
Very much so.
We might need to do some things and have some things in place.
Yeah. So that was a great way to get clients, and then just general networking with other professionals.
What do you think? Because y'all have a list of questions about estate planning, so they're coming. Okay, we got to get the background on the business, but then the questions are coming. But what has been, because you're in this, you do help clients with estate planning now. What has been like the most rewarding part so far? 7 years in, what has been the most rewarding part when you're working with your clients on their estate planning, on their estate plans?
I think the end, because people are really scared to do it. And they drag their feet to do it. And they're usually coming to me because their financial advisor had made them do it, or like they just had a kid and they're like, okay, I guess we should put some plans in place for the kid just in case something happens to me. And like we have discussions during our consultation about like guardianship, like who do you want to take care of the kids? And these aren't ideas or topics that you really want to talk about. But you kind of just have to rip the Band-Aid and just like let it be uncomfortable for 5 minutes, and then it's going to be so worth it. But at the end, when they come to my office and they're signing everything, like most of the time people are like, this was such an easy process. And like, I feel like a weight has been lifted, and it's really nice to hear that. So that, I think that's like the most rewarding part, is just, I made it smooth and simple for them.
Yeah, because it's like when your parents talk to you about that stuff, you're like, I don't want to talk about this right now. They're like, yeah, I know, but eventually we have to. It's inevitable, so you'd rather be prepared than... So what exactly, because, we hear estate planning, what exactly does that look like? If someone were to come to you and say, okay, I need help with estate planning, what does that look like? That's a very generic, general question. Like, what does that look like?
Our process?
Yes. What does the process of estate planning look like?
Yeah. So generally when people come to us and they're like, I need to start my estate planning, we have an intro meeting to talk about like what they're looking to do. Just general background. Like, do you own a home? Do you have kids? Do you have grandkids? Like, what are your goals? And then we have them fill out a questionnaire before we have like our full consultation with them. And that really helps me prepare for the consultation and get ideas about what they're looking to do. And then in that actual meeting, we talk about their goals again, and we design a way to reach those goals in a legal way. And then we discuss it and just make sure that it's all in alignment. And then we actually draft up the documents, and it's tailored to them. So we don't do cookie cutter, because we get a lot of people that are like similar demographic. We get a lot of millennials that have a house. They usually have children, and they're looking to get things in place. But the way that they want to get things in place are vastly different. And so I don't do a one size fits all approach. So we draft it to what we talked about in the consultation. We review the documents with them, make any necessary changes, make sure they understand it, because that's pivotal to me.
They're like, I signed this document, but I don't know what it means.
Yes. And I don't want that. Like, I really tried my best to go through it. Like, I make an actual recording of myself going through their documents so they can have it forever. And then they come to our office and sign everything, and they go home with the documents then. And so most of our meetings are held virtually on Zoom. We also started doing in person again. which our older clients really love.
They're like, we're not doing technology. They like that.
Yes.
They like that in-person interaction.
They do.
Yeah.
They do. But some of the older clients are hip to Zoom,
Yes.
and they once they get get the first one under their belt, they really, really love it. I think it's just the fear of something new. Yeah.
So one of the things, what do you think is one of the biggest misconceptions about estate planning that you've encountered with clients?
That you have to have a lot of money, that you have to be rich.
Yeah.
That would be one of them. Because a lot of people are like, well, I don't own much. I don't have much. It's just me and my dog. And like, you still own a lot. Like, like the stuff that's in your house or your apartment, like, where is that going to go? The money that's in your bank account, like, it may just be $20. But like, who's going to get that $20? Who's going to take care of your dog if something happens to you? These are all things that people don't think about. And so you don't have to be a millionaire to do estate planning.
Yeah.
It really should start like once you're an adult. So that's a big misconception. And another misconception I see is like the superstition of like, oh, if I do my estate planning, I'm going to die.
Oh, people say that?
Yes. Yes.
I've never heard that before.
Yes. And so a lot of people think that of like, you know, in my culture, we don't really talk about this stuff. It's really superstitious to do that. But like, I have not had a client that like signed my documents and then like went out on Wisconsin Avenue and got hit by a bus. Like, that hasn't happened.
We're thankful for that.
Yes, and I'm thankful for that too. But like, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. So it's good that you, it's good to just put the superstition aside and just like be uncomfortable for a moment and then get it done with.
Yeah. So you said you should think about it, or you can start when you're adult, but what does that look like? You know, so should someone who's fresh out of college start estate planning? Should you wait till you have some type of assets to start? You know, it doesn't have to be rich, but like when you own a home or you have an apartment with, you know, valuable assets, like when does that time frame start that's like, okay, I should probably look into doing some type of estate planning?
So you can start it when you're 18, like going off to college. You don't have to have that much. And so estate planning isn't just like your last will or having a trust. It's also who's going to be your power of attorney, like who's going to step into your shoes and act on your behalf if you need to, or who's going to make medical decisions for you if you can't communicate with the doctor, or who can contact the doctor on your behalf and like find out your condition. So a lot of times we do estate plans, like mini estate plans for kids going off to college, to put especially those like medical directives in place. Because a lot of times parents forget that when their kid turns 18, like that's still their baby, but in the eyes of the law, that's an adult. And so we've seen circumstances where their kid is in the hospital for some reason and they're trying to contact the doctor and contact the hospital, but they can't get information because the kid hasn't given them, put them on the HIPAA waiver or given consent for their parent to talk to the doctor. So stuff like that is what we really help with, is like the healthcare directives, power of attorney, and then just still with your will. You might not have that much, but you have stuff that you are valuable, like your video games. Who's gonna get that? Your drawings. If you're like really into art, who's gonna get that? And so and it's gonna change over your lifetime. Like who you talk to when you're 18
it's gonna be different. When
you talk, like who you're talking to when you're 40.
Exactly.
Like
that is true.
It changes, but it's nice to have it in place just in case.
That's a good point, because I know when I moved to California, I never had anything. My mom was like, "You're about to be 3,000 miles away." I think we did power of attorney, and we might have drafted up it was. I mean, I didn't have much when I was going out there, but I think we did the same. She did that for that reason, because you're like, you're not gonna be here. You're by yourself. If something happens to you, you need to be able to say, okay, these are the people that can make decisions, or they can talk to you.
Yes.
That type of thing. So that's very good. But I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
That's a good point for all of you who have kids going to college. Because I don't think that's one thing parents think about when your kids are going to college. You think like, oh, if something happens to them, I can easily be the person that communicates with the doctor or X, Y, and Z. So.
Yeah. People always forget about that. And it's important because college kids get into
You
stuff.
be in college.
You be in college.
You're in college,
having fun.
Yes. So what is one of the differences between a will and a trust? Because we see a lot of conversations about, should you get a will?
Mm-hmm.
Should you get a trust? If someone passes, trusts are easier. You have less go through the judges or than a will. So can you please break it down?
I will try.
Best that you can. What is the difference between the two? And then how do you know which one to consider?
Yeah. So determining which one you want to consider just depends on what your goals are.
Okay.
So for a will is what is like the most popular thing is when people think about estate planning. And it's a way to leave your assets and your personal belongings to people. Yeah. And it's also the only document that you can nominate guardians for your children if something happens to you and your significant other. And so I always recommend or strongly advise that if you have minor children, you need very minimum a will. But the thing with a will is that it goes through the court process known as probate. And probate is when they open up your estate after you pass away and they make sure your will is valid. If you don't have a will, then that's a different channel, but it still goes through probate. And it's a very long, drawn out process, and it can be very expensive, very time consuming. I tell people that it can expect minimum a year.
Really?
Yeah, because you're at the mercy of the court, and the court moves very slow. And probating a will is not like top priority sometimes. And so it can take quite some time. So if you want to avoid the probate process, then I would recommend looking at a trust. Another thing to consider about a will is that once it is filed with the Register of Wills to open up an estate, it becomes a public document. And so everybody can see your will and who you left things to, what you had, like who's getting what.
All in your business.
All in your business. And please believe there are people that like that's all they do is like comb through wills and just sees what's out there. And so sometimes I get clients that are like, I don't care. I'm not going to be here. Let them read my stuff.
Yeah.
But the vast majority of the time people are like, no, I don't want to know. I don't want people knowing my business.
Yeah.
So trust is a document, and it's a tool that enables you to bypass the probate process. And it allows you to take things out of your name personally and put it into the name of the trust. And it allows you to have control of those assets during your lifetime as well as after your lifetime. So if you wanted to leave assets to a minor child, a trust is a great way to do it because it allows you to leave assets to them in a manner in which you want to.
Yeah.
So a lot of times people put their beneficiary for their life insurance, for example, as their 4-year-old child. But if something were to happen to you and your child is still a minor, they're not going to get that money until they're 18. Right. And so it's just going to be sitting there. And then once they turn 18, they're going to get, if you have a $2 million life insurance policy, $2 million all at once at the age of 18. And
that's a lot of money.
Yeah, that's a lot of money. And I just know for myself, like when I was 18, like I would have been spending that on like some shoes and purses and not on my education or anything like, or investing. I didn't know what investing was when I was 18.
Exactly. That was the last thing on our minds.
Last thing. And so instead, like you can name your trust as the beneficiary. That money would flow into the trust. And then the trust document serves pretty much as an instruction manual of how you want those assets to flow. And so you can say, I want this money to be used for little Johnny's health, education, maintenance, and support until little Johnny reaches 18. And then at 18, he can get a little distribution then. He can get a distribution when he's 25 or whatever. And you can also put in stipulations, like if you want little Johnny to go to school, or get a certain GPA, or make sure they have a job, or all of these things, you can have that in there. And so it gives you that control beyond the grave. So it really just depends on what your goals are and what you're looking to do. on whether or not a trust or a will is the right one for you. And it also doesn't matter like how much assets you have. For most trust.
Do you think individuals who don't have kids could also benefit from a trust? Because I know it kind of makes sense. Like if you have, family or kids you want to leave, let's say property to, money to, have it in a trust. One is protected, so no one knows how much you really are leaving to your family, or they don't know what your asset amount is. But could a trust also be beneficial for someone who is single that, it's just them, their house, if they have a dog?
Absolutely. Yeah. So it bypasses that court process. And so it makes it very easy.
Okay.
So if you had your house in trust, your trustee who would step up after you've passed away would be able to sell the house right away rather than wait for months and months and months to get permission from the court. Okay. Yeah. So that's one thing. Another thing is I have quite a few single clients that want to leave money to charity in a certain form or fashion. And so this was a great way to streamline that process. There's also a lot of people that want to leave money to godchildren. Yeah. This is another great way to do it. You can also create a little trust fund for your dog, or
people do that.
People do that.
Really?
There are pet trust, or you can leave money for the person taking care of your dog if you've passed away.
I feel like you've seen a lot of interesting
all the time, all the time.
Interesting things.
All the time. Yeah, it's so many like special requests and family dynamics.
What's one of the craziest requests you've seen? If you can recall.
I've seen so many. Yes. I'm just trying to.
I'm over here curious. I'm like, what are people putting in there?
Yeah. Man, you put me on the spot. I feel like the first thing that comes to mind is for like what they want to do with their body after they've passed away. And so I've had several people that have wanted to be cremated and have their ashes shot into space. Oh. For some reason. Yeah. Okay. I've had people that wanted to be composted because I think that is legal now in the state of Maryland. I need to double check that. Or it's trying to become legal. There's also something called water cremation. I forget what the actual term of it. I know that for sure is like brand new in Maryland. Yeah. And I recently had someone request that in their documents. I would say like, the most interesting things come from when people have to decide what they want to do with their body. Because people, a lot of times, are like, I don't really care. And then the next meeting, they're like, I want this, that.
Now that you made them think about it, they're like, well, actually, my wish list is X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Water cremation. I've never heard of that.
Yes, I had never heard of it either until she requested it. And then I had to do some research. And I was like, this is a thing.
Like, is this legal? Can we really put this in
Yes.
there?
Yeah, okay. It is a thing in Maryland. Yeah.
Interesting. What do you think are some of the most common mistakes people make when wanting to set up a trust or a will?
Number one, using one of those paid sites on
or a template online.
A template online. Number one, like going to LegalZoom or trustandwill.com. I understand the appeal because it's super, super, super affordable. Yes. But those is a disaster.
Why? What makes them so bad?
Because you're dealing with a software system and not an actual attorney. Yes. And it's very limited on what it can do for you. And so unless you are like super simple of like, I want to give everything to my brother and that's it. That's great. Do that. But most of the time, 95% of the time, like when I'm working with people, that's not what they want to do. They want to leave things to different people in a different form or fashion. And those sites don't allow you to do it. And they may have a feature where you can like call and talk to an attorney, but that attorney is just really just checking to see if your will is going to, or your trust is going to be valid. And they can't really edit it because their hands are tied because it's a software company. Yeah. So it's like the same thing as you putting in your symptoms into WebMD of like, I have a headache.
Look, WebMD will tell you,
yes,
you
like
have a
you're
headache.
dying.
And it's like, no, you have a tumor.
Yes, you have a brain tumor. You have stage 4 brain cancer and 1 week to live. But in reality, like you're just dehydrated and need to drink a glass of water. And it's that really is like the same thing with using these paid sites. So I've reviewed many of these documents, and a lot of them don't meet what they're looking to do. A lot of them don't make sense and will not be valid in court. And so it's like if you haven't done anything at all at that point. And you spend more money having to fix it than if you did it properly the first time.
So y'all go see an attorney. Okay?
Yes, please invest.
Invest in an attorney.
Yeah.
What should someone look for when they're looking for an estate planning attorney? Like, what should they look for in their attorney to make sure that they're getting the right person to help them with their needs and their desires?
So ideally, you would want someone that this is their main practice area, and not one that they do this, they do immigration, they do bankruptcy, and they're going to help you with your divorce. Because estate planning is really intricate and it's really detailed. And you don't want people messing it up, and because that can be disastrous later on down the road. So you want to make sure that they do this as like their main practice area, and then just ask them like, what are some top estate planning documents? And if they're unable to tell you that, run. Like they should be able to tell you like will, trust, power of attorney, advance directive, living will.
Yeah.
They should be able to tell you that. So just make sure that they know their stuff. Like you don't have to grill them, because sometimes people try to grill me in our intro calls. Yeah. And like I'll answer the questions, but it's not the funnest.
You're like, and it's an intro call.
Relax. It's an intro call. We have 15 minutes. But yeah, just make sure they know their stuff.
Yeah.
And like this is their main like practice area. Yeah.
You've shared a lot about, trust versus will. If anyone is thinking like, I still don't know if I should, consider one or the other or do anything with my estate planning, what's one piece of advice we should all consider when it comes to like estate planning? Like,
well, at the very least, have a will.
Have a will. Okay.
Baseline, have a will. And talk to an attorney. You can just set up a consultation and just go from there. Because the attorney will be able to get you talking and get your wheels going about what you're looking to do. And I keep talking about like what your goals are, but everyone has a goal when it comes to estate planning.
Yeah.
And so there's lots of times where I have people that are like, oh, I need a super fancy trust and I want to do XYZ with it. And then we get in the consultation. I'm like, no, you're fine with a will. Like you can still avoid probate by doing this, that, and the other, and just still having a will. But vice versa. A lot of times I'm like, people are like, oh, I don't have much. I just need something basic, just a simple will. That's all I need. And then they want to do very complicated things with what they have. Yes. They own multiple homes in multiple states. They have property everywhere. And I'm like, no. I mean, you could do a simple will, but it's going to be horrible for probate. And then I would recommend a trust. So it really is dependent on what conversations are had in a consultation. And going back to your other question of like what to look for in an estate planning attorney is don't let someone bully you into something that you don't want to do.
Oh, that's good.
Because I've gotten that feedback about other estate planning attorneys is like, oh, they bullied my parents into doing this or that, and we didn't want to do it, but the attorney made us do it. I don't do that. Like, I will advise you of what, like, I listen to what your goals are, come up with a plan of action. If you want to do something differently, I will counsel you about that and make sure you know the pitfalls and the red flags and all of that stuff. But I'm not one to bully you because at the end of the day, you got to be comfortable with what's in your documents, not me. Like I'm not the one that's going to have to live that out. Right. I'm just going to be the one that's drafting it correctly and legally. But yeah, so just make sure you don't have a bully.
I wonder why they do that.
I don't know. Yeah. But I've heard that complaint more than once. Yeah.
Where would you like to see the Hill Law Group in 3 to 5 years? Now that you listen, y'all heard the credentials in the beginning, okay? She's out here, and actually, we'll talk offline because my chapter we do like a lot of economic development stuff, and like this conversation would be really really good to have a seminar on. So we'll talk after.
We can have a seminar.
So where would you like to see the Hill Law Group in the next 3 to 5 years, you think?
That's a really good question.
Yes.
So I would like our team to grow. Right now, I'm the only attorney on the team.
Okay.
And I would like it to be a couple more people
Yeah.
working as attorneys. Right now, we practice in Maryland, DC, and Virginia. I would like to expand that a little further. So I would like to do Pennsylvania, because we have a lot of clients that have property in Pennsylvania. And so I want to be able to reach Pennsylvania and maybe have like a Philadelphia presence.
Yep.
And then also expand further down into Virginia.
Yeah.
Because we just added on Virginia maybe a couple years ago. And so that practice area is really building up. And we're getting clients that are further down south in Virginia, like Hampton Roads, Tidewater, Virginia.
It's a very popular area.
Yes, very popular area. And like our main demographic are people of color.
Yeah.
And so I want to be able to touch people of color like everywhere. And so there's a lot of us down there.
Yeah, there are.
And so when I want to be able to have a physical presence where someone could help them down there. And we help them virtually. Yeah. But we never really meet in person. So I want them to be able to meet someone in person. Yeah. So maybe one of my team members could be based in
have a satellite office down there. Yeah, there and in Philly would be a good market too, because it's so close.
Yeah, it's so
like
close.
Less than 2 hours on the train.
Yeah, yeah.
So, as you're the owner of this law firm, because we talked about the nitty gritty of wills and trusts, but as an owner who's also a wife and a mom and a sister and a friend, you have a lot going on. What are some of the things that you do to, I don't want to use the word balance, but like take time for you, because you have a lot going on. If you're the only attorney at your company, your law firm right now, and you're juggling so many things, what do you do for you to like take a break, to not burn out? Because we don't want to round two of what you were experiencing.
No,
when you had your other job, right? We don't want you grinding your teeth,
popping out feelings
and things like that. So how do you take a moment for yourself?
That's a really good question, because it's something that I'm actively working on, because I have a tendency to say yes to everything. And then I'm like, why am I so tired all the time? And I have no time for myself. So I'm actually like getting things off of my plate.
Okay. Good.
And saying no to things and doing what I actually want to do. And I also try to take some time in the morning for myself to get my day started. Yeah. So if that's just like watching trash television or...
Are you a Bravo fan like your sister?
Love it.
Yeah.
Love
she
it.
was like, that's my guilty pleasure. Yeah.
Yes. The trashier, the better. I love it. Because it's just like my brain can just shut down. Going to the gym, that's a time to just be by myself and just get my daily endorphins and start my day. And just hang out with friends. Yeah. Carving out that time weekly to just do something that I want to do, whether it's like meeting a friend for lunch or for drinks after work or dinner or something like that, where I'm not with the kids. I'm not with my husband. I can do what I want. Yeah. Like next weekend, my book club we're doing a little trip to Annapolis overnight.
I love that.
It finally came out of the group chat.
Right.
We've been talking about this for almost 10 years. And so
not 10 years.
Yes. Yes. This year's our 10-year anniversary.
Oh, that's a good, so, you'll have to do something out of the group chat.
Yes. And so finally we're making it out of the group chat and we're doing an overnight trip. And like, I can't wait to just like unwind and like have a hotel room by myself and just have no one waking me up. So just being like
no taps in the morning.
No
like,
taps.
Honey.
No taps. No one calling me mommy. Asking me for their milk bottle. Yes. None of that. So just doing that guilt-free. And it takes practice. It's like a muscle that you have to exercise. Yeah. But like I do that guilt-free. I don't care. Like I need my kids to have a sane mother that's not going to like continue to snap on them. And if I find myself like snapping, that's when I know I have to take a break. Yeah. Because it's just, I'm too stressed. I'm too overwhelmed. I'm too overstimulated. And so I need Meredith time.
I love that. So all of y'all working moms out there, make time for you.
Yes. Do it guilt-free.
Listen, I know it's hard. Is it hard? to feel guilt-free now? You know,
it is because especially with social media, they'll make it seem like you have to spend every waking moment
with your kids.
Yes. But I like to follow people on social media, or like maybe the algorithm puts them in front of me, of parents that are like really real about being a parent and how difficult it is and how it sucks a lot of the time. And I'm just being real. just being real. And just how challenging it is. And just like, you need to make time for yourself. And then when you come back, you're going to feel so much better.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, you got to be your best version of yourself so you can be the best version for everyone else in your life.
Of course. Yeah.
So before we wrap up, I like to do a little rapid fire questions. These are fun because the last few episodes, people were like, what's in there? What are these questions? I'm like, they're not messy. They're just fun. They're just fun questions. Here, I'll let you pick them. Out the mug.
I just pick one at a time?
Yeah. Okay. We'll do a couple.
What's one piece of advice or motto you live by? That is, do what makes you happy. Because I feel like so often, especially me, a recovering people pleaser, I would do stuff that I didn't really want to do and I'd be all miserable. But I've been it's been several years I've been working on this, of saying no to things I don't want to do and saying yes to me and what I want to do. And it makes me so much happier. I love that. And I wish I could have told my younger self that, of just like, do what you want to do. Yeah. Life is short.
It is.
So short.
It is. But at least you know that now. You're not like 20 plus years later and you're just like, I wish I would have. It's like, better late than never.
Yeah. Better late than never.
Better late than never.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. Okay. Do I pick another one?
Pick another one. You're so nervous.
Oh my gosh. What are they
Why
going
are
to
you
say?
so nervous? You want me to pick one for you?
Sure.
Here.
Okay. What's the most interesting place you've ever visited? I would say on our honeymoon, we went to Japan. And I loved it. Yeah. Absolutely loved it. I would love to live there for like a couple years if possible. It was wonderful.
What did you like the most about it?
I loved the culture. I loved the food. I loved how clean it was.
A lot of people say that.
It's extremely clean. I remember one time my husband and I were looking, we had gone to Starbucks and we just wanted to throw away our cups. And we couldn't find a trash can on the street. We had to go into like a bookstore and find a trash can in the bathroom there. But it's just so spectacularly clean. Yeah. The people were very nice to us. The technology is really nice. It was just a very, very nice place to visit. Yeah. And I would love to live there for like 2 years and then come back.
That would be nice.
I'm putting it out there.
Listen, anything is possible.
Anything is possible.
Because when you have your team, you'll be able to do that and they can handle everything. You know, you'll just be owner, but you'll be hands off. Yeah. So they'll be able to handle everything while you go and live in Japan for 2 years.
Yeah, I can live there. Yeah. Or maybe at very least summer there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would love that.
That would work. Here's a final one for you. Since you love, trashy TV, what's one show that you love to sit down and watch with a glass of wine?
Oh, okay. Anything on Bravo.
Yes.
So any of the Real Housewives, love it. This past summer, I got into Love Island. Fantastic. Fantastic television, especially with a glass of wine. Love it. And my ultimate trash television show is Love After Lockup. And it is... It's on WeTV.
WeTV, yeah.
Spectacular.
She said spectacular.
Spectacular. Yes. Yeah.
Well, I love that for you.
Thank you. I love watching television.
Hey, if that's what you need to decompress, I'm here for it. Tell everybody where they can connect with you online. So if they need help with the will, trust, any type of estate planning, where can the people find you?
Sure. You can go to our website. It's thehilllawgroup.com. We're on social media platforms, and it's just at Hill Law Group. Okay. And then my personal handle is Meresque, MERESQ.
She said Esquire, y'all, okay?
Esquire.
Get into it.
And so those are our different ways to get in touch.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much for being here and telling and sharing your story and sharing all this valuable information. I think we as a community need it. It's very important that we understand the difference, wills, trust, and the importance of estate planning. So I appreciate you sharing all that information with us. Make sure you guys, especially if you're in the DMV area, connect with Meredith online, go to the website. If you thought about estate planning, if you have documents that need to be reviewed, I might have to hit her up about some of mine. Make sure you check her out. Go to the website, follow on socials. I appreciate you guys for tuning into this episode, and I will catch you next time. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Kickback with Keri podcast. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. The Kickback with Keri is available wherever you get your podcasts.